Servus YouTube, Chef here, back with yet another spicy build, this time Mage Ranger Hybrid. This is the best build for pushing endgame in 1.0.6. With the recent nerfs to Bleeding Edge with added cooldown of 10 seconds and the damage reduction on the ailment modifier, this skill basically became unusable. But now there's a new kid on the block with ailment because it has not been nerfed yet, and they even buffed it by fixing the passive node primordial inside. With that said, this is the most mechanically intense build I've done so far. So if you don't know how ailments work, I recommend checking out my Mage build first. Also the advanced guide is very helpful on that. It is also fairly difficult to gear for, so if you want something with less specific affix requirements, check out my turret build. But with that out of the way, let's go over the details in the passive, skills, items and attribute sections. Passives. This is the finalized tree. Keep in mind that on the left side you can turn the wheel, so please align the rings like I have them. In the first ring we have the Sentinel, in the second one we have Ranger and the Warlock, and in the third one we got Exorcist and Time Weaver. Critical nodes in this build are residual energy in the Warlock class. This gives us additional damage scaling with our total attack damage. So flat damage multiplied with all damage increases, and then it takes 30% from that and adds it on top. And then all of that gets multiplied by crit damage, so overall a very powerful node. Next important one is Immortal Offering. This also gives us additional damage, not a percent increase. When we kill an enemy, for each 5 stacks of a different ailment on them, we get 25% additional damage. The type of the added damage is from the corresponding ailment. This is going to be important when gearing. More detail on this in the item section. Then to scale our ailment damage we grab Master of Curses here and Impossible Soul there. To increase our maximum ailment stacks to 30. Witch Time Cannot Heal applies the ailment damage after 1.5 seconds again. And they finally fixed Primordial inside, which means our ailment damage can now crit as well. Because of this node we are now also focused on crit damage, scaling our ailment and attack damage with it. Merciless Lethality gives us a huge crit damage. Then minor nodes in the Soldier tree give us all crit damage. And 2 nodes in the Siege Breaker. And we grab 1 node for attack damage only. It is Frenzied Blows, basically doubling the damage on Arrow's Wail and Gunslinger's Brand. This is the reason why we want to stay above 750 rage. And then for defense we grab Salvatore for doubled defenses on chest and helmet. That is the reason why we are looking for a heavy one. And the second defensive node that we are taking is Branded Burst. Gives us decent damage reduction. I don't think in the reference is worth it. It would negate the first hit aim by 100%, but it's almost as good as 75. And because we also take Dire Junction, we only take 40% of the damage and then we take the rest after 1 second, so that is more than enough defense in my opinion. Then the last nodes are optional. Ancient Fervor is giving us a damage buff and crit chance score depending on the skill that we cast. This can be triggered with any skill, it doesn't need to be a spell or attack. So by converting Arrow's Wail into fire we trigger Ebenezer's Accord, which gives us 20% generic, and then with Anomaly converted into lightning we trigger Baal Malik's Accord, which gives us crit chance score. This buff only stays for a very short time, and it also is just a generic damage increase, which is almost nothing, so overall not a huge fan of it, but it is one of the better options that we have left on the tree. The other nodes that we grab is Manic Slaughter, gives us around 30% damage, Persistence Hunting triggered by Stasis another 25%, and Focus, which is also another 25% generic percent damage increase, scaling ailment and attack damage. To finish off the tree I would grab the last 2 cooldown nodes in here and there, and also increased ailment chance score with Attrition the Strategist. For leveling I recommend going ailment only, turning the wheels like this, starting off in the Scholar, getting ailment chance early, into the Kabbalist, grabbing every single node in here, and then move Time Weaver up there. To grab Witch Time Cannot Heal, since this is the biggest damage increase for ailments. Skills. We are using Arrow's Whale to proc every single ailment in our build. By just cycling through our skills, the highest damage type on Arrow's Whale becomes the base from the last spell cast. This swaps instantly when we cast a different spell and we don't need to recast the ability to apply it. The only ailments that we don't apply are freeze because it's not benefiting us damage wise, and stun is not in the game yet. And then our second highest damage type is fire because of this modifier. Other important one is aching accuracy, not because we want to charge it up, but we want to cancel the charge. It instantly fires off the skill then without any cast animation whatsoever. And the other modifiers are all for damage. The other attack skill that we are using is Gunsinger's Brand. This is to increase DPS on bosses since we are very much struggling with single target damage. Order through Chaos, Endless Throws, and Wild Gunsman are the most important modifiers on this skill. The others are every damage node we can get. Spells we use are Anomaly, converted into Lightning to trigger residual energy with that damage type, and Rending of Matter to basically have the cooldown on it. Then we are using Plague Burst to apply Poison, Ether Jump to trigger residual energy with Ether, and we want to grab this modifier, otherwise we are not gonna trigger residual energy, since it only triggers with spells that actually deal damage. But by choosing this modifier it would deal damage, so it would trigger residual energy. And then the same goes for Bulwark of Dawn. By picking up this one it also deals damage and triggers residual energy with Sacred. This is also a very good defensive skill with these two modifiers right here and this one. The health regen, the increased health regen on the tick is very potent. And then our last ailment comes from Mark of Impurity. By using this modifier we apply Curse Stacks. We apply this skill on enemies automatically with any hit that we do because of the belt, the trial. If you do not have the belt, swap this out for Bulwark of Dawn for more damage. And then probably the next modifier that will be nerfed in the future, Fate of the Unholy, makes it that enemies that die deal their maximum HP to other enemies around them. This damage can also crit, so it is extremely busted. Items. So main hand. We are using a pistol to be able to cast Gunslinger's Brand and Arrow's Whale. Most important stat we are looking for are 3 flat damage to attacks. After that, % crit damage, then % material, and least important, % ailment damage. Offhand, unique catalyst, the Magfasten Act. It gives us another residual energy buff. If you don't have it, go with a normal one with crit damage and % damage increases. Accessories. Rings. Attacks gain damage from last spell cast is the most important. After that, 3 flat attack damage rolls. And then the least important are crit hit damage and % damage increases. Amulet with another Servus affix plus 2 ailment stacks applied. Then we are looking again with 3 flat damage added to attacks. And then after that crit damage, and then the least important % damage increases. Belt is a unique, the trial, apply Mark of Impurity on any hit. If you don't have it, go with a normal one with the same affixes as Amulet and swap out Bulwark of Dawn for Mark of Impurity. Shoulders and gloves in the heavy category with % damage, % rage and willpower cost reduction are the most important. After that we're looking for flat all res, then % all res, and then after that to flat ferocity. Helmet and chest have to be heavy because of our passive. We're also looking for the Servus affix Manic Slaughter on chest and helmet. Then with including the pants we're looking for cooldown reduction, transfer time reduction. After that all resistance flat, then % all resistance, then plus flat ferocity. And last, boots with also the heavy category, and the most important affix on here is plus % of movement speed. If you do not have this affix, then drop the passive node Disallowing Vessel. Other affixes we are looking for is flat all res, % all res, and then flat ferocity. Gems. We want 3 tier 1 offensive slots on our weapon with any gem that gives us flat damage added to attacks. On accessories, we want support socket tier 3 with amethyst for transfer time reduction. And on chest, helmet and pants, we want defensive 3 with alexandrite for all resistance score. Attributes. We are going full ferocity for the highest amount of bonus damage per point. If you don't have gear with wisdom, make sure your ailment chance is at least 10%. And if you want to be tankier, I recommend 1/3 of the points into toughness. Now that you know how the build functions, let's see it in action. We are only doing a level 163 run, but the build is more than capable of doing 187. The bosses just take fairly long to kill in that level though. As you can see, we already have the maximum amount of immortal offering buffs by casting our arrow's wheel and cycling through our spells. This means we get 150% additional damage from immortal offering, and we are always casting spells, which is another 70% added on top through residual energy. This build did around 10 million crits with the old bleeding edge, but now that they added 10 seconds cooldown on it, it is pretty much unplayable. I wonder if they will nerf ailments in the future. They seem extremely strong, especially now with the fixed node primordial inside. But I already know the next thing they will nerf. It's probably the modifier Mark of Impurity, where you deal the monster's maximum HP in an AoE when it dies, because that modifier can crit as well, so it basically can like one-shot bosses. So that is a good strategy if you want to do 187. You just kite the boss into other groups of enemies, into trash mobs. And when you kill them, the boss usually gets one-shot by it. They have also nerfed crit nodes in this patch, all the minor nodes reduced by about 1/3, and merciless lethality got reverted back to beta with 60% instead of 100. But it still doesn't hinder crit damage, since crit damage multiplies all of our flat damage with damage increases, and we alone just from attributes have 700% increased damage. So crit is still very powerful because it scales quite hard. They also extremely buffed summons now in this patch, so that will probably be my next build I'll work on. But yeah, that's it from me. Hope you enjoyed the build. If you want to support the channel, leave me a like, also subscribe and ring the bell for future Wolcen content. Becoming a full-time content creator was always my dream, and I'm gonna work very hard on it, no matter what. But with all the support my channel received so far, I'm very hopeful. Also did ask for less hours now at work, since I can't really do content creation and work a full-time job as well. Because this demands a lot of time and dedication, and the last few months were just working, sleeping and making Wolcen content. But yeah, as always, I'll see you in the next one. Servus YouTube.